Welcome back everyone, RacerX here, and today I thought I would put a quick reaction video together for you guys about the big news. Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, has resigned as of today. I actually just saw some stuff on it late last night. I saw the posting on Stellantis' media page today, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on this whole thing because he wasn't supposed to resign until 2026. Obviously, that's a long way off. They made some decisions very recently, so today I'll talk about how it happened, and we'll talk a little bit about the implications moving forward for Stellantis as a company. It should be a fun one. If you guys are brand new to the channel, please don't forget, hit subscribe. You can find that button right over here. And off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Today's video sponsor is my partners over at Ancel. They just sent me one of their brand new products and it is really cool. It is called the Echo. It is a diagnostic code reader, but this one actually works via Bluetooth. You can download an app directly from your phone. So much new functionality packed into this little guy. Let's take a closer look. This new scanning tool is extremely robust. It comes in a nice, neat little box. The manual is super easy to use, super easy to read. It even comes in this cool little case here, and it plugs directly into the OBD port, as I mentioned, so no need for wires. Simply go into your app store on your iPhone or Android and download the Ancel Echo app. It's actually super easy to use, super easy to find, and only takes a second. You simply plug the device into your vehicle's OBD port like you see here, and you see the green indicator light. Once you use the app to connect to the device, it will glow blue like this. The Ancel Echo is capable of doing a full diagnostic scan on your vehicle's entire system directly from your home. It looks for all sorts of different things. In addition, you get real-time data, which is a nice feature, and there's a handy-dandy dashboard that shows you your tachometer and real-time speed. The Ancel Echo app is super easy to use, literally one-touch functionality, and it does a multitude of other things that I haven't been able to show you. And in the event you do find a code on your car, it's super easy to view right there on the app, or you can simply print out a report. They make it really easy for you guys. So give yourself a little peace of mind. Go grab one of these Ancel Echoes. You could buy them right off of Amazon. I will pin a link in the video comments below to make it easy to find. And on we go with the video. So all this comes as a pretty big shock because Stellantis has repeatedly stated that they had no intention whatsoever on making any changes either within their brands or within their leadership structure at Stellantis up until Carlos Tavares' contract is out in the middle of 2026, a full year and a half from now. And now we get the news today that he is resigning. And right on Stellantis' webpage, you can find this. Go read it for yourself, but I figure I would read it to you. It says, Stellantis' success since its creation has been rooted in a perfect alignment between the reference shareholders, the board, and the CEO. However, in recent weeks, different views have emerged, which has resulted in the board and the CEO coming to today's decision. So essentially, they got together, decided it was best for both parties if they just part ways. Now, we'll never really know what happened behind closed doors. I mean, did Stellantis actually ask him to leave based on all the negative things that have happened? We'll talk about that in just a second. Or did he actually step down? He was just kind of tired of hearing all the criticism and everything else going on. I have my thoughts on this, but we'll actually never know because we weren't inside that room. Now, I did a video on this a little while back where I talked about Stellantis in 3.5 years of ownership has essentially run the MOPAR brands, i.e. Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram, directly into the ground. We're talking about a 100-year legacy in like the case of Chrysler, almost 100 years, and it took Stellantis basically 3 years to run that company directly into the ground. And Carlos Tavares definitely had his vision, but I don't think it really resonated with the American consumer. I've talked about it at length. What works in Europe doesn't necessarily work in the US. It's not what the US consumer wants, and there was a big disconnect. We've already known that the US consumer doesn't necessarily want EVs. It shows in the sales. Look what's going on with the Mach-E and some of the other EVs that are out there that they were hoping would sell well, and they just simply aren't. And there have been a litany of other issues. I wrote down a short bulleted list about some of the things that have happened under the Tavares regime, so to speak. And I do want to stress it wasn't just Carlos Tavares that made all of these decisions. They do have a board there at Stellantis, so they all kind of came together and collectively made these decisions. So I don't think it falls squarely on Carlos Tavares. I think certainly some of it does. I feel like that disconnect, like we just talked about, is a huge reason why. But just looking at this stuff, it gets really ugly. For one, shareholders are not happy, and they really don't have any reason to be happy. Year over year, the stock price is down 40%. So if you had a lot of money invested in Stellantis stock, you lost a butt ton of money. A lot of shareholders felt like they were deceived on inventory levels and essentially the health of the company. A lot of people were expecting a pretty good return on investment. And when the final numbers came out, like the mid this year, it was just really, really ugly. And I could go into all the numbers. I've done it in the past, but let's just say it is less than ideal from a stock price perspective. The dealer network also extremely upset, so much so that they actually wrote a letter. The head of the dealer union wrote a letter directly to Carlos Tavares and put it out there for the public to see about how disgruntled they were, about how they're making it impossible to make money, how they feel like they're not supported. There were a huge list of things that they listed out, and basically they did not hold back any punches in that letter, and then they put it out there for the public to see, and it just got really, really ugly. So when you have your dealer network that sells your product writing to you in a public fashion about how change is needed, that is not a good look whatsoever. And that kind of just started another big snowball effect. Certainly the expense of cars went way, way up under Carlos Tavares. They gave us much less desirable models. We can go into the Hornet. We can go into some of the EV stuff coming down the pipe. I mean, if you look at Chrysler, we now only have a minivan. For the entire brand, that's all you have. And then they promised us some sort of a mid-size SUV in like 2026 that's going to be all electric. How can you get excited about that? Certainly nobody is talking about the Chrysler lineup at all, and if they do say anything, it's pretty much negative. And certainly from a quality perspective, things have gone downhill as well. You hear about more and more quality issues with really all of the Stellantis products, not just the MOPAR brands, but quality seems to be a big problem as well. Now, Carlos Tavares has mentioned that he wanted to cut costs by 30%. I don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing, because their vehicles got really, really expensive, which is part of the problem, right? If your vehicles go up in price, it's simple economics, right? People are going to buy less of them typically, especially when they're not built, in terms of quality like their competitors are. So it's just not a good recipe. That is a recipe for disaster. So cutting costs makes sense. However, when you're not giving people models that they want, it still doesn't work. So it's one thing to cut costs, and that's got a lot of other people upset. Certainly the labor union, the UAW, they're pissed at Stellantis as well. Imagine that, just get in line with everybody else. But cutting costs is something that he knew needed to happen, and I get that, like I said. But if you don't give people models and engines and things that they want, things that they actually want to spend their money on, it doesn't make any difference. So you're kind of caught in this really ugly catch-22. Just to kind of add on to that a little bit, Carlos Tavares also publicly came out and stated that they planned on essentially selling off or just dissolving any brands that were not making money for the parent company, which is all good and well. If I own my own business and I saw one of my business entities that was simply like a boat anchor, it doesn't make any sense to hold on to it. However, you still have to give leadership the tools to be successful. So you have these unrealistic expectations about get sales up, and you have all of this other crap happening in the background with cars that are more expensive and certainly less desirable. How in the world could you expect anybody to succeed in that situation? I've talked about it in the past. It is just a dead end for any CEO. I mean, look at what Tim Kuniskis kind of gave us in terms of back in 2015 when he gave us the Hellcat, and he built up this amazing, fun brand. And then he had to watch it basically go all down the toilet. And obviously, we saw him eventually leave. The same thing with the leader there at Jeep. I mean, there's been a number of executives, really good, talented executives that understand the market, that understand the legacy of the brands, that simply were run off. They left because they weren't being listened to and they weren't given the tools to be successful. And I mean, how in the world could it really get any worse? And now for the big question. With Carlos Tavares stepping down, Where in the world is Stellantis headed? Well, they said right there on their website that they hope to have a new CEO in place by the middle of this coming year, perhaps in the next 6-7 months. It is my personal hypothesis, if you will, that they have already been looking for somebody, even if it was to take the place of him in 2026 when his contract ran out. I feel like they have probably been looking for somebody for a while, and it's going to take somebody with a pretty unique background. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why in the world don't they just go get Tim Kuniskis and put him in that CEO role at Stellantis? Well, I can give you a couple reasons why it probably wouldn't work. Not that I wouldn't love to see it, because I liked him as a person. I love that he's a car enthusiast. I think Tim is awesome, and he was so good for Dodge. But one is he is an American, and keep in mind, Stellantis, a European company. I just don't see that happening. And two, Tim is a very performance-oriented guy. And most of the brands under the Stellantis umbrella are not necessarily performance-oriented. I just don't think it would be that great of a fit. And I personally know that Tim does not want to take a role. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to take a role that he's not a good fit for, and a role that is not based on performance. Tim wants to go back and do more performance-oriented stuff. I can just tell you that much from personal conversations I've had with him. So if it's not a good fit, he's not going to do it. And I don't think the folks at Stellantis would want to put him in that role. Who knows what could happen? He's a great CEO. So I'm just kind of addressing this because I know it's going to be in the comments. But I don't know if he would be right for that specific role. As I mentioned before, if Pontiac or somebody came back, I could see him absolutely knocking it out of the park with that brand. But once again, we aren't talking about American-owned brands. Would he be in the exact same position? Probably so. And will things really change with Carlos moving aside and a new person coming in? They've already spent billions of dollars on EV plants and EV technology. They have basically gone full bore down this road, and I don't really know how you right the ship from here. It's not like this new person's going to step in and be like V8s for everybody. Could that happen? Maybe. But man, it would take a huge undertaking and a complete shift in the corporate culture there at Stellantis to move the needle in that direction. So to give you my final thoughts on how all of this could shake out, well, will the new CEO of Stellantis be more in touch with the American consumer? After all, that is really what is needed here. Well, we won't know until they announce that person. My personal feeling is that they're going to hire another European CEO. After all, Stellantis is a European company, and we may still have this really crazy disconnect between Stellantis leadership and the American consumer. So if they can fix that piece of it, that would be going a long way. And it is my hope that if they do appoint a new CEO that is European, maybe they will hire somebody else in charge of the North American market that really understands it, that understands the legacy of the brands and what these consumers are looking for. And then maybe it will open up the playbook. Obviously, we have a new administration coming in here in January. Not a political channel, guys. I'm not going down that route. But we do know that Donald Trump is going to roll back the EV mandate. At least that is most likely. He may relax the CAFE standards. We'll see how that goes. But it will probably open up the playbook if Stellantis wanted to go that route, at least initially. So you still have to get the board to sign off on it. This new leader, I'm really hoping that they're at least somewhat performance-oriented, and they really, really try hard to understand what Americans want, the pricing structure here, just everything that goes into being a successful American car brand. They have got to get a better grasp on that. So if they can do those things, get somebody appointed who really understands the MOPAR people out there, then maybe they've got a fighting chance. But this new leader, maybe they have the same mindset as Carlos Tavares, and we'll see our brands continue to just kind of go down the toilet. And, if they just continue to give us small SUVs and boring stuff that we don't want, I don't think things are going to get any better. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on in a nutshell. Let's hope they put somebody in place over there, or they appoint somebody over there, over the North American folks that will get in there and actually, listen a little bit and kind of rewrite this script. So we'll see, guys. Just thought I would put it out there. Obviously some big news. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.